Hello, this is Eamonn Wall from the University of Missouri, St. Louis. I am one of the contributors to the 100th volume of Reimagining Ireland. And my thanks to Doctors Eugene O'Brien and Eamonn Marr for inviting me to be part of this volume and celebration. I am thrilled to be part of it, and I congratulate both of them on this landmark, achieving this landmark. And it's a series that has been known throughout the Irish studies world for its variety and excellence. And I wish them success with all of the future volumes as well. And I'm sure that the series will continue to develop and grow as we go forward. My chapter in this volume is focused on the US. And I came to the US in 1982 as a graduate student, and finishing graduate school, I've worked at various American universities. Throughout my time in America, I've belonged to ACIS, the American Conference for Irish Studies. And this is the main Irish Studies organization in the country. It's an organization that has a large annual conference that attracts maybe 500 people each year, as well as smaller regional meetings. So in my essay, I look at and explore Irish studies within this specific academic setting, but I also look at Irish studies as a pursuit that is taken seriously in other organizations in the US. ACIS was founded in 1960. And it was founded by a group of scholars, mainly literary scholars and historians, who felt that their discipline required an organization of its own. Before the founding, these scholars belonged to other organizations, the AHA and the MLA primarily. And Irish studies in these organizations existed on the margins. So they felt that it was necessary to create a separate organization. 1960, of course, is an important year in America, and a particularly important year for Irish Americans, because it is the year when JFK becomes president. And also, during this period, other ethnic groups, African Americans, Latino and Latina Americans, and Native Americans, just to name three ethnic groups, were forming organizations, and because they too had become very, very interested in exploring their history, their ethnicities, and their sense of belonging, both to the United States and to their countries of origins. So it was a very interesting time in America, and it was a time when Irish Americans were attending universities more, were wealthier, and had developed this hunger to explore Ireland and also Irish America. So in the essay, I look at some of the major figures in Irish studies of this period, such as Professor John Kelleher of Harvard, historians Emmett Larkin and Lawrence McCaffrey, and literary scholars such as Charles Fanning, James Silas Rogers, and others. And I also explore important work done by women scholars in Irish studies, and I look at some of the debates that have taken place in Irish studies over the past 40 years or so. these debates on the direction of scholarship, are similar to debates that take place in other organizations. I also spent some time exploring Irish studies in the 19th century, at a time before Irish studies existed in a formal way, certainly not in a way that we would recognize today. I look at churches, trade unions, for example, where workers were educated and where worshippers were educated about Ireland and its history. I also explore a little bit some of the great lectures given in America by visitors from Ireland. I think the visits of people like Michael Davitt, Oscar Wilde, W.B. Yeats, and others contributed a lot to Irish studies in its infancy. People became aware of Ireland more and saw Ireland in a different way and saw it as a kind of a serious subject for study. And so I think this is an aspect that is not always explored in detail. And I think, and I in the essay that I wrote, I tried to look on these developments in the 19th century as the kind of as laying the seeds for the development of academic Irish studies a century later. The personal part of the essay that I write is, in a sense, deals with the sense of ACIS as being a home, both a home for me as an immigrant living in the US, but also as a home for scholars. Most of Irish studies scholars in the US are part of universities where he or she is the only Irish studies specialist in the university. So ACIS provides a kind of a place that these scholars can come to every year to reconnect with their peers, to share ideas, and to feel a sense of belonging. And so I think it plays a very, very important part in that regard. America is so large that there is a sense of being cut off and being isolated. So I think that going to these conferences and meeting with these with peers allows people to be motivated and re-energized, but also to learn about developments in the field. And of course, Irish studies in America and Irish studies conferences in America attract scholars also from Ireland and from other places, so that they are melting pots. I also look a little bit in the essay at the importance of the large Irish studies centers that we have here in the US now. In particular, the University of Notre Dame, Boston College, NYU, Villanova, and others. And because of their resources, because of how they train PhD students and create the scholars of the future. And I also look at I also explore, in a more casual way, some of my own contacts and relationships with senior scholars, people like Lawrence McCaffrey, who encouraged me so much when I set out as a writer and a scholar in the late 1980s and early 1990s. At the end of the essay, I look at some ways that the the discipline of Irish studies in North America might develop as we go forward. A worry, of course, that we all have is that because of the cutting of funding for universities, there are less jobs for our PhD graduates. And so this is an obvious concern. But I also explore some issues that are much more positive, such as the development of the new technologies and how these allow for new research to emerge. And I end my essay then with the notion that I hope that as we move forward, the academic organizations and the non-academic organizations in the United States become closer aligned. And because I think they all are traveling in the same direction, but they would be even stronger by working more together. So I hope you get a chance to read the book and to read the essay, and my best wishes to everybody.